So my name is Karina.
I'm Maya.
And I'm Raina.
I'm Ellie.
And our individual mechanism is stress.
Was this supposed to work? There's an on-off thing on the side. Oh, there it is.
Okay. So what is work stress? Well, that is a response people may have when presented with work demands and pressures that are not matched to their knowledge and abilities, in which challenge their ability to cope. What causes work stress? Well, poor work organization, which usually is the way that jobs are designed and the work system, and the way that they're managed usually can lead to stress.
Sorry, I'm trying to move it over.
No, you're fine. Job content, usually when there's no variety or it's just too dull. Workload in workplace, sometimes the workload is too much or too little, which can cause stress. Working hours, sometimes there's not much of a concrete work schedule or it's unpredictable, and that can cause stress. Participation and control, sometimes there's a lack in decision making, lack of control, time and pace. Career development, status, and pay. Sometimes stress can lead to whether or not you'll be promoted to the next position or you're not getting paid enough. The role in the organization is sometimes, which can lead to stress, could be that you don't know what your job is, or you're just not, you don't know what your responsibility is for other people. Interpersonal relationships, usually it could be bullying that causes stress or unsupportive supervision. Organizational culture could be due to poor communication or poor leadership, or home and work interface, which is finding that balance between home and work. Next one. Oh. Next one. So pressure within the workplace can be inevitable. It's something that you can't really avoid, and usually it's a good thing because it gets workers going. It helps them to push them to meet the demands that the workplace requires. But sometimes when that pressure becomes too much, that's when it causes stress, and that can lead to health problems and poor job performance. Next one. Effects of stress on the organization. Well, it can increase absence, it can decrease commitment to work, it can increase staff turnover rate, impaired performance and productivity, increasing unsafe working practice and accident rates, increase complaints from clients and customers, adversely affecting staff recruitment, increasing liability to legal claims and actions by stressed workers, and damaging the organization's image both among internally and externally.
All right. So next we have effects of stress on individuals. People are more likely to be unhealthy because it affects your immune system when you're going through all that stress. It can cause anxiety, unmotivation, distress, and irritability, unable to relax or concentrate, difficulty sleeping, you feel tired a lot, depressed or anxious, less productive, a feeling of being less safe, and there's serious physical problems like heart disease, disorders of the digestive system, increased blood pressure, headaches, and musculoskeletal disorders. So some common psychological symptoms of stress are mental, emotional, and behavioral. Mental is decrease in the concentration and memory, indecisiveness, mind racing or going blank, confusion or loss of sense of humor. Emotional is anxiety, nervousness, depression, anger, frustration, worry, fear, irritability, impatience, and a shorter temper. And behavioral is pacing, fidgeting, nervous habits like nail biting, foot tapping, an increase in eating. It can also be a decrease in eating. Smoking, drinking, crying, yelling, swearing, blaming, or throwing things or hitting. This is the risk management cycle that we found. So it starts with the assessment of the risk, design and action to plan to reduce the risk, implementation of the action plan, evaluation of the action plan, learning, and further actions. Stress risk management. So things to ask yourself are which of your groups in your organization are likely to be more stressed? What evidence have you got for this? So example, high absence rates, poor productivity, poor health records. Also, something you want to ask yourself are what are the work conditions like? How is working within these groups and designed and managed?
Okay, so once you've kind of asked yourself all those questions to kind of relay on your employees, these are kind of the next steps to follow once you've gotten that information. So best way, you want to go to your employees, consult them through group discussion, get their side of the story, how they're feeling, things like that. And you want to identify the main problems and the effects that they're placing on your employees. And then once you've gotten that information, you want to relay it with other people that it would be important to. So whether that's their specific managers or other people like the occupational health specialists. And from there, you want to develop an appropriate, reasonable, and practical plan that would, most importantly, be practical in helping your employees relieve that stress. So then from there, once you have made that plan, you want to inform your employees what you think would work. You want to make sure that they think that's practical as well, making sure that you're on the same page. And then once you get that plan implemented, you want to figure out a way that would be the best way to evaluate it. And once you have implemented that plan and evaluated it, you want to go back and kind of just really think about like what worked, what didn't work, and from then you can revise the plan. So how can we keep implementing the things that worked, that were successful, and then how can we change the things that didn't work, that were essentially failures. And the best way this kind of is a more broken down, I guess, more in detail way of that risk management cycle. And I guess the best way in my head for any other nursing students, this is just like ingrained in our heads. We call it ADPI. So that's like the process of assessing, diagnosing, planning, implementing, and evaluating. So I just like, that's what this pretty much says in my mind, and that's kind of an easy way just to remember that. So what does well-designed work include? So what are the best ways that we can prevent stress? So you want to make sure that there's a clear structure and practices. You want to make sure that the employees know what they're kind of entitled to do, that they know what's going on. An appropriate selection, training, and staff development. So you want to make sure that the employees' skills, their knowledge, abilities match their position, and that you can be able to go back, figure out ways to assess them, and implement any additional training if necessary. You want to make sure that job descriptions are clear so that the employees have a clear understanding of objectives, policy, the strategy, and that their demands are appropriate, that things are divided fairly. Communication is really important, so you want to make sure that employees are aware of if they have any questions, who can they go to. So that they're comfortable with going to their manager, that they have a clear communication system with other employees. If they have a group project, can I reach them during the weekends? Can I reach them after work hours? So you want to make sure that that communication is just very clear and that they know how to reach people. And also a healthy social environment. So socializing and teamwork will lead to increased commitment to work and employees. And I've kind of experienced this a lot because if you're not really respecting and you don't really have that relationship with people you're working with, you won't have that motivation to do your job and you just won't really want to work with them. So you want to have that base of just like a good relationships and just being comfortable. So some workplaces may be far from reasonable to expect all of these factors to be present. But you do still want to set priorities for change and manage the change towards risk reduction. So the best strategies for work redesign. You want to, if you need to, change demands for work. So that includes environment, making sure the workload is fair. Another thing with environment, even if it's just like the equipment, the room that they're in, that can really have a big impact on how your employees are working. You want to ensure employees are developing appropriate knowledge and abilities to perform the jobs effectively, so that they had proper training and that they're being assessed and reviewed for that progress regularly. Improve employees' control over the way they do their work. Increase support system. So again, that's that teamwork, really doing, what we've done in class, the team building exercises, and that they have a comfortable interaction with their fellow employees. So some things to implement with that: stress management training. So whether you have a wellness program at work, you have, I know some, you can do like yoga, meditation. I know some, going off of wellness programs, my parents' business just actually did this. They'll do an Olympics in the morning. So your morning starts off with doing activities. It's just a fun competition. Includes team building too, and then you go throughout your day, and it just kind of starts off the day on a good foot. Environmental design, so that too, whether it's equipment, the room that you're in, management development, and organizational development. And then, so you want to make sure that, so early detection is key. So if there's something going on, that you detect stress is going on or that work isn't happening the way it should be, you want to make sure that you know how to detect that before it gets worse. So you want to make sure that you're monitoring your staff for satisfaction and health indications. So that's going back to that diagram that with all the symptoms. Make sure your staff is aware of the direction in which they turn to regarding any issues that they may be experiencing. If professional help is needed, if there is, your company does have a general practitioner, occupational health services, or if the business does have an employee assistance programs, make sure they know how to reach that, and that they're aware of their options and where to go if they're experiencing those difficulties. And then follow up your findings after a suitable period and compare them with earlier findings. So make sure that even though things may not seem to be progressing a lot, you want to keep track, because then if you go back and are like, oh, well, it used to be like this, you can still keep track of the progress that you have made. And then you're like, oh, well, we've made changes, things are getting better. So you want to make sure, any progress is progress, so a little bit can still be a lot.
All right, so good management is stress management. What this means is that a good manager will know how to control the stress level in the work environment, whether it's by figuring out the employee's mental wellness or is physical stress. And then by the manager doing this, he knows that he can find the success for the organization to get better. All right, so solving work stress problems. Ensure that the employees have or develop the appropriate knowledge and abilities to perform their jobs. What this means is to provide the employees with proper training, and then once they do that, just follow the employee and make sure that they're doing the job how it's supposed to be done. Changing the demands of work, just changing the job around so they don't get bored doing the same thing over and over again, and increase the amount and quality of support they receive. How can we handle stress? Talk to someone. Sometimes when you talk to someone, you feel like there's somebody cares, so that lowers your stress level. Manage your time. Try not to be in such a rush, because that could also create more stress. Get more sleep. Go for a walk. Maintain a well-balanced meal. Have positive thoughts and surround yourself with positive people, and have a good sense of humor. And then these are just managing stress, things that can help you manage stress, whether it's like meditation, journaling, leading a balanced life, physical activities, exercise, and personal productive skills. And that's it.
Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Observations? I have a couple things. I like the use of that risk management cycle because stress management in a company is difficult. It's not linear. It's not like it's just a just one problem that goes away. It's ongoing. So that I like that they used that model and you tied it to stress management. And I think it's a really great picture. There was a slide you talked about, and I think Liz, you were talking about different strategies and communication was one, but also approachability, and that actually goes to trust. So if you think about the individual mechanisms and stress, and also there's trust, justice, and ethics. And I don't think you can have one without the others. If you think about it, if you have a personal problem that's affecting your stress at work, you want to be able to go to somebody, and are you going to go to that person if you don't trust them? Absolutely not. I wouldn't. So, I mean, those two things do go hand in hand. The morning Olympics thing, I think that's great, because I remember watching, I don't know if the auto industry in Japan still does this, but you can probably Google and find film of first thing in the morning, they get the entire workforce outside, and they're doing calisthenics, jumping jacks and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. I'll have to find that and show it to you. But that does kind of promote a cohesion and kind of gets you motivated in a very positive way. What else? I like that you also talked about assessing, measuring progress is essential. Because if you have a situation where you're going to start like a stress management initiative because absenteeism is really high and turnover is really high, I think that's a great point to make. I'm glad you guys made that point because you need to be able to see if what you're doing is working. And if it is, make sure that you have the resources to continue it, or you can just continue to improve it, because it all comes back to, in the end, job performance and commitment. But like we talked about, when we quantify like things like conflict and what the cost of attrition is, to the profitability of the company. So no, very, very good job, ladies.